Okay, so welcome to this class. So today we are going to create a fresh table. The first thing I want us to do is to create a database, which I've already said that you use the command create database. So I'm naming this my company DB. And then after creating your database, you need to comment it out. You need to comment it out like this. Okay. So after commenting it out, before you can move to run the next command. Okay, so now here I'm going to say use company DB like this. I can now execute. Okay, and now you have what? A database that is existing. Now, after doing this, I will need to comment this out. So you cannot use a database if it is not created. And if a database is created, you must use it before you have access to the database. So create your database, then use is a must. So you cannot access a database just because you have created it. You have to use it. Then you comment that out. Now, the next thing I want to now do is how to now add create a table and add value to it. And this is very crucial because that you have a database, you must have a table before a value can be added, so that it becomes neat like this. All right, so now this is what we are going to do. So I'm going to now create a new table. So I'll call this table, so I'll come and say create table, then followed by the table name. These are command. The create is a command you use to create. And if you remember the CRUD operation I said yesterday, this is how you create. You use the create. So you create, you read, you update, you delete. All right. Now the table name here, because I'm dealing with company, I'm going to use department. So now the table must not be a capital letter, but it should be something memorable, okay, depending on what you are using it for. All right, so I'll come here and I'll say department like this. Department, because I'm going to put many data inside. So it has to be plural. I will now open a parenthesis. Now, inside this parenthesis, what do I need to do? I need to now, first of all, specify the primary key. And then I want to create a department ID so that each department in the company has an ID. Or I can say if it is employee table, I can say each employee should have an ID. So I will say employee ID. If it is goods, I'll say goods ID. If it is product, I'll say product ID. If it is service, I'll say. So all the table you create, you must know the name for their ID. So I'll just call it department. Okay, let's say department like this, department ID like this. Okay, then I will now specify the data type, which is in this case is an integer. Then I'll now specify primary key. I'll come here and I'll say primary key. Okay, sorry, primary, and then I'll specify key. Now, because of the environment I am, which is SQL Server, I am not in MySQL or Postgres. This is SQL Server. I will need to specify identity. Okay, identity like this. Then inside here, I'll have 1,1. So with this, I'm saying that this primary key should be what? Should be unique. All right. Now, I'm now moving to the next one where I'll say department name. Let me copy this down and then do department. Then I'll say department like this, name. This is the proper way to write field name. Field your table 0 now or column. Your column name, yes. Your column name should look like this. There should be no space like this. Yes, they should be together. If it is student name, if it is product name, if it is service name, if it is whatever it is, the table you are creating, just make sure they are like this. Okay. You need to specify the data type. So you can say variable. Yes, you can say NV or you can say VA, any which one you do. So it depends on the environment. We are using Microsoft SQL Server. So like if I do this, it's still available, it's still okay. Sorry, capital letter VAR, then shall like this. So you can specify the limit of the character you want to put. And like I told you, no names past 100 characters. Officially, your name should be 15 characters.
Yeah.
Yes, I think so. Yeah. All right. So this is it. Then it should not be null. Okay. Not null. Not null simply means it must not be empty. Very important, because if you just create it and you just without this thing here, it shows that if it is empty, no problem. But once you put not null, you now put a restriction that there must be a value in that column. This is how you can create. So I'm just creating these two departments. So I want to know the department name, the department ID and the department name. So I will know who is in what department and what are their roles. Now, having created that, I need to also create an employee table. Like I said, this is a company database we are creating afresh. Okay, I took time yesterday to create this dummy data we are going to be using. All right. So we are going to use a company and their department and their employee. So now we created department. So I'm now going to create their employee. So I'll come here and then I'll say create. So I can just move this here and just change it to employee. So I'll come here and do it like this. Then change this to what? Employee. Okay, it should not be capital letter. And then it must not be a must. You can just run the first one. You can execute this and come back and execute the next one. So I can execute this and a table is created. Now, since it is so once I do this, this command will not run again. All right. So this is multi-line comment. This is single line comment. Now, having done that, the next one I want to do now is I want to create a next table. So now I'll now create a table and then I'll call it employee like this, employee. Okay. Create table and then I'll call it employees. All right, plural. What should we have inside this employee table? We are going to have employee ID. We are going to have their first name, their last name, their age, their salary, their hiring date, and their department ID. Remember, department ID. So this is where I'll now show you secondary key and primary key now. So let's now go into it. So what do? I'll now come here and then I'll say employee ID integer. Then it should be primary. Okay, it should be primary like this. Okay, I need this now. So I'll come here and say primary, and then I'll say key. Okay, key, and then identity like this, identity, and then bracket. You can see that I'm not giving space between the identity and the parentheses, comma. Then I'll go to the next line, first name. Now I will now specify the character. So I'll say V should be capital letter like this. Then I'll specify. So, but let's just make it 60. So this is first name. Now I put the not know here because it is a mandatory that everybody must belong to a department. So it is not a must to put it here. And if you put not know, there is no way you will say somebody has him and he doesn't have a first name. You don't put not know here. To the next one, and then I'll say change this to last name. Then we say age, then it should be a type integer. You're not specifying and then the number of numbers that should be here. Once you say integer, integer is integer. Then salary. This is the major way to do this because there are so many things I've not been able to. How do you do with a float? A float, like I told you in the last class, is where you have a decimal number. Salary come with decimal, and because it's a decimal number or a float, so in SQL, it is denoted by decimal like this. Let me comment this, replace it like this. So why is it decimal? Because it's carrying a what? A decimal place. Okay. So I will specify 10, then I'll specify 2. Why am I doing this? I'm doing this so that if the salary is, so if it is 10 digits, this is how you can handle it. 10 digits, 2 decimal places. Now, their hiring date. So when you say hiring like this, that's the time they were employed into the company. So I'll now say the hiring date should be a date data type. So I'll put a comma here. I'll say date like this. All right. Then comma. So once I put date here, the data will already know that the place here is going to be a date. All right. Then I'll need to now specify, I'll now need to bring a foreign key. This is where I'm now bringing this departmental ID inside the employer ID, because each employer must have their departmental ID and their department name. Okay, so what do I need to do? I'll now come here and then specify their department ID. Okay, I'll say department ID. I'll bring it down here. Now that I just added department ID is not enough. We need to specify that this is a foreign key. And how do I do it? I'll now come down and say foreign and then key, and then in bracket I'll specify the department ID as that this department ID is a foreign key that is referencing. So I'll say reference, then I'll say department. Inside it I'll pass in department. Do you understand what I'm doing? I'll explain again. So the department ID is a foreign key, but I need to explicitly tell this table that this department ID is a foreign key. And what is a foreign key? Foreign key establish relationship between two tables. Trying to tell this new table that there is a relationship between this foreign key, department ID, that is referencing the table called department. Because it's an object, I will need to also what? Specify that the department ID in the table. And with that done, I can just close my table like this. So this is how you can create your table. The command has gone successfully. So now that I've done that, what do I need to do next? So now I've been able to comment that out. Now the different table we have, okay, the different departments we have. For you to add a value to a database, to a database table, what do? You use the insert keyword. So I'll come here and I will say insert. So I'll say department, okay, and then in bracket, I want to just add to the department. I want to add a department name. So remember that this department ID is auto-generated, so I don't need to specify it.
Okay.
So after department like this, and then I'll come here and then I'll say department name, then name like this. Then I'll now come down and then specify the values. I'll now say values. I can use a small letter, but it's conventional, so I can say values and then come down. And then this is the different department we are going to look at. So the sales department, the marketing department, the HR department, the IT, the finance. All right. So why? I just specify a single column table. So now after this, I will need to what? Execute. So I will execute like this. Okay. So it now says 8 rows affected. So now if we now comment them out, let's comment them and see what we've done so far. So I can now come and say select everything from, all right, like this. So I'll now put my semicolon and then execute. So you can see that we now have a departmental ID and their departmental name. So this is what I was saying, that it will be auto-generated. Now that we've now have this, what do we now do next? A value inside table. So how do we do it? So we can come and then do the same command we did before, insert into. Then we specify the name of our table, in this case, employees, like this. And then we now do parentheses. And then inside this, so you can see that here we have the first name, last name. I'll just be picking one after the other and be dropping it here. Or you can just type salary like this. Okay, age, first name, last name, age, salary, and then department ID. Which is foreign key. So you don't need to do anything on that. Just place it as it is, department ID, right? Employee, first name, last name, age, salary, hire date, department ID. Then we'll now come down and do our values. Now we now have values here. So I'll say values like this. Okay. Sorry, capital letter. You can choose not to be, for it not to be a capital letter. So once you have values here, so here we have John Doe, 28, 55,000 is the salary, and he was employed on the January 1st, 2015. Can you see the way I'm writing the dates? Anyhow you arrange them, it must tally with whatever you have. All the column here must tally with what you create here. If it does not tally, you run into an error. So let me just add 2 more so that we have enough data we can manipulate today. All your dates must be inside a single quote. Everything that is character must be inside a single quote. The date is an object. Anything that is inside a quote is an object. I can now go and execute like this. Okay, incorrect syntax. I need to put comma. Okay, now the last one here is the one throwing an error. There should not be comma at the last one of your data. So I'll now execute. And then 20 rows affected. So if we now go now, if we now comment this out. So like I said, do not re-execute it twice. So if I execute it, I will run into an error. It will keep adding, which is not good. This now, I now have up to 80 rows already. Okay. Oh, so I need to specify employee. So I'll do employee. Can you see it's up to 80? Why? Because I repeated it. That's where manipulation comes in. So I did that so that you see how we can edit a table, where we can update an existing table. All right. So this is how you can create your table. Now we have a well-looking data base table. Now that this is done, we can now go further to perform some operation. So you already know select. So if you want to select everything, is this using this command. Let me bring it down so that we can get into the core aspect of the class. So I'll do something like this. So if you want to select everything, you do select X. That is for everything. Okay. and then followed by the name of the table, in this case employee. So select everything from employee and then execute, okay, and it will return this. Now what if I don't want to select everything? I want specific value to get them. So the first thing you need to do is to select what you want. So you can say select first name and last name. You can say select, and I can also add a hire date. Then I'll now specify where should I get this from. So I'll now say, okay, get it from the employee table. So I'll put the from keyword. Let's execute it. So you can see that it's giving us their ID, first name, last name, and their hire date. So you can be specific like this. I want to get this first name and last name based on their department. I can comment this out, okay, and repeat the same command. This time I'm now being specific. Okay, you can go down to be more specific. Okay, so you can see that. So this is the keyword I want you to understand. The select from where department ID is equal to 3. So this is how you can join them. So you can get an ID of any information about an employer using their departmental ID. If, for example, we want to get everything from employee, their hiring date is 2016, for example. Okay, so I want to speak all the employees that are hired on this day. I will execute. Oh yes, it has to be wrapped inside the quotes. All right, so these are the people that are hired. Laura Scott, this is the only person that was hired because we duplicated this thing. That's why it's showing us for. All right, so this is how you can use the select where from. So, or you can also use the or operator. The or operator will show you if one is true. So you can say or, let's say last name to the okay, age. So where age is what is greater than, and then we execute. So you can see. So these are the people that their age is greater than 30 that are employed within that 2016 April 17th. So this is how you can use the select from and the where operator. I also showed you about order by, and using limit. Okay, so but in SQL Server we use top or offset. I want to now show you how to order by. So if you look at our data, we can order it. We can arrange it by ascending or descending order based on what you are getting from your data. If I come here and I do something like this and I say I want to get the top 5 first names, so I'll say top. We want to get the first 5 people that have the top 5 people that with their first name, salary, and then we can say okay, age, okay, from employee table like this. Then I want to also it should be ordered by their salary. The whole information that should come out should be ordered by their what salary, and it should be descending order. So once it's like this, I can execute, and you can see the top 5. So James is collecting 95, Barbara 98,000. This information helps you to know. That is why people in administrative positions have so much information. You can also do calculations with this. I'm using this top here because on SQL Server you use top. So let's say we want to limit the number, so it should skip the first 10 rows. So just like we say select top 5, so we can say select first name. Okay, select first name, salary, age, hire date from employee, and then order by salary at descending order. Then we can add another condition that it should offset. What does it mean? It should limit. Offset is what you use in SQL Server. You should limit the 10 rows. Okay, the 10 rows like this, and fetch the next 5 rows. That means skip the first 10 row and fetch the next 5 row only. So let's execute. So do you see now? So Robert, Laura, this is how you can use the offset keyword. The offset is a limit keyword. In the SQL Server you use offset. In some other RDBMS you use limit. Okay, so if you want to limit the rows that you are getting, you can use the offset 10 rows, fetch next 5 rows, right? So this is how you can use the limit. Then I also showed you how to use the distinct. Now this is where this is going to get interesting because we've used it before. I can now say select distinct, department from employee. So I say department. If we execute this, it removes every other duplicated value in the employee table. If we use this syntax here, select distinct everything from employee table, it removes every other duplicated value here except the departmental ID, which is still maintaining their duplicated ID based on the fact that we duplicated that data. And we've not come to update where we correct all of those things. But this is how you can use the distinct to remove duplicated rows in your data. All right. Now I want to count the salary. I want to count the employee. How many employee? So if I want to count them, how can I do it? For me to count the employee, I will do something like this. I will use the count keyword. In parentheses, I want to count like this. I want to count everything. So if I put asterisk, anywhere you see asterisk, it counts everything from our employee table. So then we execute like this. So it's giving us that we have 80 there. Now you can also use the count. If you paid your entire worker, for example, and you want to count their salary, you can do the same thing. So I'll come here and I'll say salary. I'll specify salary inside this parenthesis like this. So if I specify it like this, I'm saying that I should count the salary that has been paid. So if I execute, it's still going to give return 80. Remember, I'm currently explaining basic SQL. Count, sum, average, maximum, minimum. So in a situation where you want to know the number of rows, which is what we have done so far with the everything and specifically for the salary, then we can also use sum. We want to count the total salary that has been paid. We can use sum. Then if we want to know the average, we can also use average and max and mini. That's what I want us to do now. Yeah, so we are done with the count. Let's continue with this asterisk and then come here. So now, how do we do this sum? So there are times that we want to know the total salary that has been paid from employee. So we can do like this. So we say select and then we say sum. Then inside the sum, we pass in the column we want to get the sum, which is salary in this case. Remember, it has to do with numbers. So you can't say you want to do it with names or first names. So salary, then I will specify the table. So I'll say from employee like this. Let's execute 5,488,000. So this is the total sum that has been paid to employers. Then if you want to know the average, you can also change it from here. So I'll comment this out. So I want to know the average of what we've done. So I'll come here and do something like this, right? Like this, to be abbreviated, not like this. So you abbreviate it, and then you can see that the average is 68,600. Yes, 68,600. That's the average salary that each employer is collecting, $68,800. If we now decide that okay, we want to know the maximum, the highest salary that they are being paid, we can do the same, and then I'll change this to max. So because I want to get the maximum. So the maximum salary that this company is paying their employee is $98,000. Oh. So this is how you use the count, the sum, the average, the max. And if you want to know the minimum, that is the lowest salary, come here, we change it to minimum like this, and then we execute, and there you have it. Okay, so this is how you can use the sum, the max, the count, the minimum, the average to know how your data is doing. The last one we'll discuss here is group by and having. Group by and having. So having is like where, but when you are dealing with group data, you use having. Okay, so you group rows to apply functions like sum or count to them. So like now we can come here, okay, and then I want to group the rows. So I can say I want to know the total salary per department. So let's find out how much is a department collecting. So we say department, comma, and we say sum. So and then we now pass in salary here. Pass in salary. We want to now say as. So the as is an alias. So you use an alias when you want to say that the total salary. So you are saying that you want to select department and sum the total salary. Then we say total salary like this. Okay, and then we now select from. Then we specify the employee, which is the employee table. So from employees table. Then we now group them. So we say group by. So department. Okay, so let's run it. So select department, sum the salary as total salary, and then from employee, group them by their department. So we execute. Okay, invalid column department. So that department. So let's use department ID. So we use department ID so that we use their ID to have access to the department. So okay. So the total salary per if we look at our department, here, number 1 is sales, number 2 is marketing, HR. So if you look at it, 84,000. So you can see, so the highest here, yes, HR is taking 904,000. Okay, so that's the total salary that those in the HR department are collecting. Let's look at it lastly here. So we say department where total salary is greater than 100,000. So if we want to do that, we can do the same thing. So this is where having comes in. So here we use the group by. So we
No, no,
cannot.
no. Don't edit. You can go down and do another. You copy it.
You
I
said
will
what?
I will learn all these things. Just don't change it.
I know I'm not changing it.
Don't
I'm
let
just.
out.
Or let me copy it, comment it out.
Yeah, comment it out so that I can be learning this step by step.
You are recording now, correct?
No, you are the one recording, you know.
Okay, yeah. All right. So now I want to now use, instead of group by, I want to now use having. So what's my goal here? My goal is to find the department where total salary is greater than 100,000. So I'll say select department ID, sum the salary as total salary, then from employee, then group by the department. Now I want to now go further. I want to say that is having sum. So that is where the having now play a critical role. We say 500,000. So this is it. This is how you can use the having grouping to be able to manipulate your data. So I hope that you are able to understand and see all that I've done so far.